Welcome back to the Christopher Valentine Show, and with us is Dr. Christian Von Laar, one of the main channels of all these first books in the world written by the nature spirits.
Yes, in their own words. We actually channel those. It takes about a half-hour session. Each one gets to talk, and after a while you get a whole collection, and that's what the books are about, their stories, their words. And that's something that's very unusual because most of our stories are anecdotal and passed down from that Middle Ages when the stories were actual real experiences. But you can have your own experiences right now, and we're showing you how with these books.
Now, Christian.
Oh, yes?
What is your first experience? When did you first start seeing nature spirits?
The first time.
Because I remember asking you one day, I said, Christian, you see people's guides, you see their archangels, you see their crossed over family members around them. I says, what about nature spirits?
Well, I actually started a series of rituals, because there's no book on how to do this. There is now, but wasn't back then. So I actually was making invocations to the elements of the air, the water, the earth, and fire. And I was doing one in sort of an outdoor jacuzzi, because I could sprinkle salt around, and I was actually in the element, and I think the day before I was actually laying in the dirt. And so I'm calling on the various nature spirits, trying to welcome them into my life, because there's no reason, logically, that we shouldn't be experiencing
I think we were doing this together, and it was on day 3 that something happened.
Yeah, we actually tried to go through a progression. And so I'm there, and I have some candles out there too, and I'm just there in the hot tub. I wasn't drinking, wasn't smoking, by the way. And suddenly, a little guy, about this big, starts walking by me, and he's carrying a bunch of stuff, and I'm looking, and it was clothes. And so
a big basket of clothes.
I had just pushed the button on the jacuzzi in outdoors to get it agitated, okay? Because it was getting a little cold. And so that was his cue. He came by and he threw in his clothes in the hot tub.
His dirty laundry, right?
So yeah, so the gnome throws his dirty laundry in the hot tub and starts taking this very long wooden like shovel-looking thing and starts stirring his clothes. But what was interesting? He totally ignored me.
But what did you do? You jumped like 3 feet out of the water?
Oh, I think it was more like 6. It's like, because even though I was trying to see them, and this is why we try to ease you into the process, we're not really prepared to see little people in vibrant color about that high walking around. So I literally flew out of that hot tub, and boy, when I landed, it was a splash. But it was a splash I remember because it spawned these books. Because I knew right then that they're real.
And what's interesting is, nature spirits are so used to us ignoring them. He knew Christian was in the hot tub. He could see Christian in the hot tub, but they're so used to us not responding to them, and so they think, well, they're just ignoring us.
Yeah, they hear the water running, and it's time to do laundry. They take advantage of things. Nature spirits don't waste any movement, and so if there's something going on, they will take advantage of that opportunity.
That was like their washing machine to do their.
They didn't notice me because I've never noticed them before, but now I did. So once you notice them, this is how we learn that you have to say hi. What's going on? What's your name? What are you doing? And then they look at you as like, what? You mean me? And they actually are really quite shocked because you have to remember, it's been thousands of years that they're used to us ignoring them. And fairies are amazing to watch 100 of them look at you like, whoa. and the little gnomes are just so cute because once they see you looking at them, then they move vibratorily differently. So they actually try and stand like little statues, I don't want them to forget missing. I want to make sure they see me, But you have to tell them it's okay to wave your hands and to start talking.
And that's how you know that what you're seeing is real. Right. Sometimes when you look away and you look back again, they will have completely changed their pose. But what they said is wave to them, or what we say is wave to them or ask them to wave back to you so you know.
I give them, to prove it even better, I actually give them instructions. I'll say lift your right hand, or lift your left leg, or bend over. Do something where it can be demonstrated that they're real. I mean, otherwise this is just like a story. The whole purpose of these books is the real, and you can prove it. All things in spirituality can be proved. We just have to learn the technique for doing that. Now, we can see many kinds of nature spirits, and that was one kind. We mentioned on your last show how to see salamanders, which are the spirit of the flame, by looking 8 inches above the flame and to the right 2 inches, and you see their drawn out face. And we talked about some sprites and some elves. But, in the books, we asked them, could you give us some ideas? We asked the nature spirits, give us some ideas of what we can share with people, other ways that might work for them. And you recall some of those?
Well, the Christmas light method is really great because, again, how you know you're not making it up is when you start seeing these little gnomes in your bushes behind or right where those red glowing green lights are, which make their hats, is you'll see these white beards, and those are the elders, and there's no way that these red and green lights could be making white underneath. That's how
I like that you mentioned elders, because you notice on the covers of our books they look like young children. That's because the boys, especially the young ones, are the most evident, the more outgoing. Okay, there are certainly just as many female gnomes, but they are inside. They have to be protected. They're a little more shy. Okay,
it's just like you and I. They have families. They have children. There's girl gnomes. There's boy gnomes, and it's same with all across the nature spirit kingdom.
Yeah, all the kingdoms. They're just like us. And so, whatever you resonate with the best, or they feel safer around, you'll probably be drawing them to you. But in the book, they show many techniques. For example, they mention something about a raspberry bush. I've actually found out that's actually a real fruit, okay? But you can think of raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, things like that in these viney bushes, but you get that red or color mixed with the green and that depth, and it's the way of your eyes seeing outlines of little people.
Yeah, that is their third book called The Magic of Gnomes and Leprechauns. It's natural, and they talk about looking into a berry patch. And again, it's all about separating the rods and cones in your eyes, and they give that technique on how to do that.
Yeah, using the outer part of your eye is very, very important because it has those elongated rods, but you will tend to see outlines first. So don't be surprised when you first start seeing the gnomes, because they're more friendly, you're likely to see gnomes easier. You may start seeing the outline of them first, which is just fine, because it isn't just the eyes that keep us from seeing nature spirits. It's the subconscious mind. We have a conscious mind, which is where we discern things, and eventually things filter down inside to a subconscious. But that's like a computer program, and we've learned that we're not supposed to see them, because everyone tells us we're not supposed to see them. So you have to sort of break down that resistance, and that's why these techniques that we're sharing with you occur naturally, and it's hard to dismiss them. And so your own subconscious mind lets you start seeing things. But if you have any inference whatsoever that I might have, could have, should have, seems like, who's going to know? Say you did. The reason you're doing this is so your subconscious will stop blocking, in which case, within a few more days, you'll know for darn certain that you're seeing them. But you gotta, your subconscious is going to say, no, you didn't really see it. I mean, it could have been a shadow. It was something else. That's the one talk. That's the subconscious talking to you. You don't want to listen to it because you want to change the programming, right?
And this is programming from society.
Right. Yeah. So give yourself a few days. If you have any inclination, go with it. Don't talk yourself out of it. That's the only way you're suddenly going to see them vibrantly.
That's one of the reasons we did these books, is because so many parents buy these books for their children and grandparents for their grandchildren, and so many children are seeing the nature spirits, and our hope is that when these children read these books, it'll validate their experience and they'll keep their gift of seeing the nature spirits throughout their life.
I've seen people reading our books on the plane, And actually, we've actually taken gnomes on a plane.
Well,
we had an interesting story about that.
We are supposed to be talking about traveling with your nature spirits today, and so definitely let's get into that.
Okay. So, do you recall that first story where we took them on the plane? What was that incident?
Well, the nature spirits were all very excited and they wanted to prepare, and so they wanted to make their own suitcases. And the thing about nature spirits is they are not going to follow the exact parameters that we do. Everything is going to be handmade, and it's going to be done with
But they do tend to mimic everything. Whatever you're doing, they're going to try and copy in some way. So
they have one suitcase, and it's kind of funny when you see it. Christian is saying he sees, what were you?
Well, it's like we have the suitcases that are on wheels.
Yeah.
Okay. So I see this whole collection of them. And most of them had 3 wheels on it.
Oh yes, a roller skate on one.
Like roller skate, bicycle wheel on the other side.
Wheel on the other.
So it's click, 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 click. And they're pulling those things along when you go to the airport because you're always dragging your luggage around, right? Mm-hmm. And they're as proud as can be because they're little traveling gnomes now. They have luggage,
and it's
made
so
darn cute
for them. It was made. They did it themselves with the materials that they had.
And it's funny at airports because when we travel, this happens so many times. It's just amazing. I think we spoke of it in some of the books.
When we first started out, it was like so common. You're talking about how they work with electricity and energy, right?
Right.
Okay.
But when I go up to the turnstile, carousel to get my luggage, mine will either pop up first, or when my luggage comes around, it'll go over to me, and the whole thing will just stop.
Now this has happened so many times.
And I'll get my luggage off, and it'll take off by itself.
And it'll start up again. And I've heard this story from Christian many times, And the reason I didn't see it myself is because I'm out go get in the car while he's waiting for the luggage, which never seems to take very long, because even when I'm there a few times, the luggage always seems to pop up first, and that's because they have gnomes working at the airport. But anyways, I said to Christian, I said, you know what, this time I'm going to wait, and I'm going to stay with you the whole time, and I want to see this for myself.
Doubting Thomas.
I mean, who have you ever heard of the carousel stopping and you get your luggage and it goes on again? And I'm telling you, it happened. The luggage came up, it's like first or nearly first.
Yep.
The whole carousel stops, he's able to get the luggage off, and then it starts
And it
up
happens
again.
in other ways, like some of the big conventions we do, thousands of people at some of these shows. I had to get up to a lecture I was doing, and there were really at least 600 or 700 people on this escalator going up to the third or fourth floor. And there was no way I was going to make it. So the leprechaun stopped the escalator. Everybody walked up or walked down and got off the escalator. I went over and stepped on it, and it suddenly starts up by itself, takes me up to the top, and everybody starts running over. And I'm on the escalator by myself, made my appointment, did my lecture. It was great.
That's the thing about nature spirits, is they work very well with energy. I can remember when we had some things that weren't working in the house. We had a ceiling fan that wasn't working. We tried everything to get it on, all the different knobs. We also had a jacuzzi outside or hot tub that wasn't working anymore, and the car air conditioner wasn't working. And so I said to Christian, maybe the nature spirits could help us out with this. So
I think it's like whatever you need done around the house, that's exactly the kind of gnome or leprechaun or elf you're going to attract. But what about the time we went on a plane trip, and it was the elves' first trip, remember?
Yes, well...
And they were afraid to go?
Well, yeah. Well, finishing that earlier story, we went on vacation, and when we came back, the fan was working miraculously. The hot tub was working also, and the car air conditioner turned on at the airport parking lot. So that is an example of the nature spirits correcting it and bringing things back to their normal state, and original condition that they were in. Now, the story you were talking about?
One, we took them on the first plane ride.
Well, I can remember a very traumatic incident.
Exactly. Yes.
And I do think it is in Carson's book. That one or the third
Let's
one?
just show them this.
Yeah.
This is Seen in Sensing Gnomes, and this is Elf Carson on the cover. Sort of a modern hat where he has the traditional feather in the side. But he was the shy one. He's the one that never wants to get forgotten or lost. And he's a character in this story too. They were kind of nervous about going on the plane. And it was funny taking all the nature spirits on the first plane trip. So it's a feature story in our book. They started clipping themselves together, and they took like these bicycle poles, those poles with banners on them so children could put them on the back of their bikes so they don't get lost or something. Yeah.
And this was after an incident earlier that we talked about. I think it was in another book where it concerned Gnome, Billy, and Chester. And there was a lot of chaos at the airport, and we weren't really being calm at the time, and there was so much going on, and we lost contact with two of our very dear special gnomes. And what happened was we had gotten on the airplane, and in this case we didn't go to first class like we do, and gnomes and nature spirits follow patterns, and so we were thinking maybe they went up to first class while we went back to coach, because I sensed that we weren't all here again. And this was
Now the audience is probably thinking, I don't think you're all here either.
well, this was such a traumatic experience for me that I actually couldn't put it in a book until like the third book, because it was so loaded with emotion for me. But what happened was Christian got the same answer at some point, and this point was when we were actually taxiing down the runway to
Well,
take
you
off.
actually wanted me to go up to the first class and ask the waitress or the what do they call them, stewardesses?
Well,
do we have any gnomes up here?
Well, what happened was we came to the realization that Chester and Billy were back at the airport, screaming and waiting.
So we left them at the airport, right?
We had left him at the airport. We are near takeoff. I mean, we are taxiing down the runway, and I said, Christian, you've got to do something. We've got to do something. And so I knew that if we did this, we would probably have the FBI and the police there greeting us at the gate when we come back. But I couldn't help it.
The gnome patrol. Yeah.
I said, we can't do it. And I said, you got to go get a flight attendant. So Christian is making his way up the plane. There's no flight attendants anywhere. I assume they are locked down in their seats at this point.
Very gracefully, nobody knew I was walking up.
Well, I'm sure, they were thinking it was some kind of terrorist thing by the time they got our story.
Well, when you see me bounding down the aisle towards the cockpit, I think everybody was taking notice, was my point. But right then something happened. The pilot gets on the plane. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had an incident. The airport has called us back. The lights aren't blinking right. Something's going wrong with the plane. And so to tie this into the previous note that we made, they work with electricity and things like that. And they were messing with the controls to get that plane to turn around. They said the doors weren't locking right, we're out of gas, all sorts of things.
Yeah, it was something as simple as, I think, a light flickering off on the control panel that they needed to have.
Ultimately, yeah.
Ultimately, that's what it was. And so we had to go back to the gate that we were at. They opened the door, and along with the mechanics coming in to fix that
Don't you remember
light-
hearing that? Little Gnome's knocking on the outside of the door, Daddy, Daddy!
So Gnome, Chester, and Billy rush in along. We're all reunited. All is well. They fix the light. It only takes a few minutes to change the bulb, and we're back on our way again. But that was like a saving moment.
And this is when, that's right, this is when they decided to start wearing those little flag banners that the kids put on the back of their bikes and start clipping themselves together so they don't get disconnected with us.
Well, Christian, this was a wonderful story, and all of the information that you provided us with today is so wonderful. Thank you for being on the show today. And
it's always fun talking about the nature spirits.
Well, we look forward to having you back again.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. And if you'd like more information, my website is ChristopherValentineshow.com.